Merry Christmas, everybody! Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about the movie Soul. I'll try my hardest not to spoil that much, but no promises. But just for reference, this is a quick review. I'm still gonna upload a video on Tuesday, and if you guys want to know, it's gonna be a review on a popular YouTube cartoon, but I thought in the spirit of the holidays, I could give you guys a treat. Now, I've waited months for this movie, and I was a little sad when it was announced we get it on Disney Plus and not in theaters. Honestly, this movie really should have been in theaters. And the reason I say this is because the visuals are really stunning. Like, at times they're better than Inside Out. Yeah, it's Pixar, so you know they're gonna outdo themselves, but yeah, this was really stunning. Like, it blew me away. Like, when Joe goes to the mind of one of these characters with, like, anxiety, and all of her insecurities become these big, gaping monsters that try to attack Joe, like, it was really cool and really scary. Or, there was also The Great Beyond, which was soothing yet really scary. It was kind of like that door from BoJack. The only time the animation really suffers is with the humans. I like how they managed to make them realistic yet cartoony, like, especially when they play the instruments, but sometimes it's a little too uncomfortable. It's not everybody, obviously, but Joe's nose does not belong on his body. But I guess it is a nitpick, so how's the movie beyond that? Maybe it's because of all the hype, but this movie was really great. Like, honestly, it's probably one of Pixar's top 10. It probably can't top Inside Out, but if there was a top 10 list, I'd definitely put it on there. So let's discuss the rest of the movie. The movie's about Joe Gardner, a part-time band teacher in New York City. But Joe's dream isn't that, he wants to become a jazz player. And his dream is to perform with Dorothea Williams, who is voiced by the same lady who voices Anna Spanakopita. Like, exact same voice. I know it was a little distracting, especially when Doria had this whole analogy to water like Anna did, but she was really great. One day after class, Joe gets his call from one of his former students. The guy's in a band, and one of his bandmates went through, so they need a sub. And the gig is with Dorothea Williams herself. Joe gets into the zone, and everybody's impressed, so they decide to let him join the band for that night. But on the way home, Joe falls into a manhole, and he ends up going to the Great Beyond. But through circumstances, he ends up in the Great Before, where he's to mentor a pre-soul named 22, who doesn't see the purpose in living. Now, I'll be honest, I really dislike 22. At first, she was really annoying, but she really grows on you. Like, I really got attached. I won't spoil, but her character growth is really great. Yeah, maybe some of her jokes go on a little too long, but she is still a really great character. Now, I will say the world building in the movie is really great. Like, it rivals Inside Out. It's a little more simplistic, but it still gives you a lot to think on. And of all things, it kind of reminded me of The Good Place, especially with the super cheery Janet's Jerry's. And then there's that stubborn accountant. His name is Terry. He wants to send Joe to the Great Beyond because his count's slightly off. Admittedly, he's probably the worst part about this movie, and not for reasons why you're supposed to dislike him. Like, the count's off, yeah, but like, why does he care? Is it like if Joe doesn't go, the fabric of the universe tears or something like that? I mean, at least Joe's trying to correct his mistake. He has a funny moment here and there, but he's really one note. Hey, at least The Good Place mentioned that Sean was just really bored, or the judge was just really lazy. Like, it feels like they added him last minute because they needed conflict. And speaking of conflict, I do have one problem with the world building, and that's how the mentor system works. I don't have a problem with The Great Beyond, since as a kids movie, you probably know they're not going to discuss it, but why do only some souls get to mentor and others don't? Like, why wasn't Joe a mentor? That's kind of how he meets 22 since he gets mixed up for another guy, but wouldn't he be a good mentor? I mean, he was a teacher, and he had a student who really cared about him. I don't know, again, it's a nitpick, but it's really confusing. And somehow 22 mentions, like, oh, the Great Before is just hypothetical, but it's clearly real if somehow Terry was able to go to Earth and influence them. I mean, again, it's probably just a nitpick, but it was still really confusing. But I think one of the best parts about the movie was the themes. And one of the biggest is the difference between a purpose and a dream. My favorite part has to be when we meet Joe's barber, and he tells Joe his life story. He wanted to become a vet and go to vet school, but his daughter got sick, so he had to go to barber school because it was cheaper, but he still liked it. Joe thinks he's unhappy, but he isn't because he's doing something he loves. Admittedly, though, the themes can get a little on the nose or preachy, especially with 22 at the beginning. Yeah, it's a kids movie, but Inside Out, I guess because of how much research went into it, it felt like a show don't tell, and that's a reason why I believe it's so popular. But beyond the themes, I think the best part was the ending. I might be spoiling things, but the movie's ending is really ambiguous. I went in the movie thinking that 22 was going to end up as Joe's cat, or Joe marries a woman and 22 becomes his daughter, but that's not what happens. And honestly, we don't find out what happens to her. And beyond Joe coming back to life, we don't find out what happens to him either. He just lives his life. And honestly, I don't want a sequel for this movie. Inside Out, maybe, yeah, I feel you could make one even if it doesn't need one, but this movie, it definitely does not need one. Overall, a fantastic movie and one of Pixar's best. It has a problem here and there, but again, what movie doesn't? But if you watched Soul, what did you think about it? Did you think it was one of Pixar's best, or do you think it's one of Pixar's weakest? What else should I review? Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Merry Christmas, everybody! I'm Kitty Monk, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday.